Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me for my presentation on the effects of attachment on interpersonal self-efficacy in emerging adults, postpartum depression in mothers as a moderator. In this presentation, we will go over some background information, my purpose for this study, the methods and measures that I used, my results, and then we will discuss my results in the context of some limitations and future implications. Existing literature has shown that postpartum depression in mothers can lead to negative child behaviors and insecure attachment in mother-child relationships. And more insecure, anxious, and avoidant attachment styles have been associated with decreased self-efficacy in social relationships. Given these previous findings, I wanted the present study to examine the effects of attachment on interpersonal self-efficacy in emerging adults while controlling for maternal history of postpartum mood symptoms. And I hypothesized that maternal history of postpartum mood symptoms would negatively affect attachment and interpersonal self-efficacy in emerging adults. My 48 participants in this study were all Meredith College students, and they completed an online survey which included informed consent, open-ended questions about maternal history of postpartum mood symptoms, quantitative questions that assessed attachment and social self-efficacy, and then participants were provided with resources like the Meredith College Counseling Center at the end of the survey. In addition to the open-ended demographics questions that assessed maternal history of postpartum mood symptoms, I used the inventory of parent and peer attachment, the social self-efficacy measure, and the self-efficacy in romantic relationships scale to examine attachment and social self-efficacy in my participants. Included in the parent portion of the inventory of parent and peer attachment were 3 attachment subscales. Those subscales were maternal trust, maternal communication, and maternal alienation, and I factored these subscales into my results. I performed a stepwise linear regression to examine the effects of maternal history of postpartum mood symptoms on social self-efficacy. In this model, maternal history of postpartum mood symptoms was not a significant predictor of social self-efficacy. However, when focusing on the attachment subscales, maternal communication was the only significant predictor of social self-efficacy. A second stepwise linear regression was conducted to examine the effects of maternal history of postpartum mood symptoms on self-efficacy in romantic relationships. And again, in this model, maternal history of postpartum mood symptoms was not a significant predictor of self-efficacy in romantic relationships. However, when focusing on the attachment subscales, maternal alienation was the only significant predictor of self-efficacy in romantic relationships. Given these results, the present study shows that maternal history of postpartum mood symptoms does not affect interpersonal self-efficacy in emerging adults. However, current maternal communication affects social self-efficacy, and current maternal alienation affects self-efficacy in romantic relationships. And while this finding on maternal alienation was not expected, it is consistent with previous literature. In their 2020 study, Williamson and colleagues found that adolescent girls with high maternal alienation reported having more satisfactory mentor relationships, whereas adolescent girls with low maternal alienation reported having less satisfactory mentor relationships. So considering these findings, the present study can suggest that emerging adults with higher maternal alienation will have better interpersonal self-efficacy so that they can foster those lower alienation relationships elsewhere. And these results should be considered in the context of some limitations. So first, the small sample size may not be representative of all Meredith College students or generalizable to larger populations of emerging adults. And this study did not collect data on participant demographics like age, race, gender, religion, sexuality, cultural or ethnic background, or participants' mental health status or history. Another limitation of this study is that data collected about participants' mothers' experiences with postpartum mood symptoms may not be accurate due to the study's self-reflective nature. So participants who did not ask their mothers about their history with postpartum mood symptoms or were unsure of their mother's mental health history could have provided inaccurate data. And participants who did ask their mothers about their history with postpartum mood symptoms also could have provided inaccurate data due to differences in generational disclosure. So future research should gather demographic data from participants to account for different confounding variables that could have influenced participant attachment, self-efficacy, or the ability to report retrospective information. Additionally, future research should recruit a larger sample size with defined age restrictions for participation to control for differences that age or experience could have contributed to this present study. Finally, more research should be conducted on the topics of the present study to better understand the role that postpartum mood disorders can play in attachment and interpersonal self-efficacy in college students. I would like to thank Dr. Betty Shannon Pravat, as well as the entire Department of Psychology and Social Work at Meredith College for their guidance and support on this project. If you have any questions or concerns about this study, you can contact me by email. My email is mfperry@email.meredith.edu, or you can contact Dr. Pravat by email, and her email is bpravat@meredith.edu. At this time, I will accept any questions that you may have about this project. Thank you so much.